What's up, y'all? It is your main man, T Square Tristan Thomas, back after a long while. I know. I'm guessing y'all can guess the reason. If you can't, let's talk about it. This episode 132 of Tall Tristan Sports Show, serves as the Bucks season wrap. Yes, it's June, but they ain't in the finals. They didn't even sniff the second round. And it is painful. That's why I ain't been around for a little bit. Y'all know the song No Apologies by Eminem? It was off his mixtape album, The Re-Up, Shady Records, D12, others on there. He had a song called No Apologies, and at the beginning of the last verse, he said, "This song isn't for you, it's for me." The True MC. So we'll do to see if he still has it. This episode is not so much for y'all as it is for me. Now, that's not to say that I'm dissing y'all. I love y'all. I love the support, and I thank y'all for your continued support after all these years, and you're still stomping with me. But sometimes, even though I try to cover the world of Wisconsin sports and the rest of the leagues all over the place, without letting it seep into my very fabric, it's hard to do that when you're covering teams and discussing teams that are near and dear to your heart, that you grew up with. A team that you saw win a championship just 2 seasons ago. A team that you saw capture the best record in the entire league, with great odds to go the distance and win a second championship in 3 seasons. After that gut punch in game 1 where the Heat came into Fiserv, which is a very hard place to win in, took that game from the Bucks. Yes, Giannis went down with injury in that game. Tried to come back, couldn't come back with that back injury. Subsequently missed the rest of that game, the following 2 games after that. Bucks did win game 2, and you felt that the basketball gods were putting things back where they were supposed to be. Heat were not a great shooting team at all season. That shooting that they enjoyed in game 1 came back down to earth in game 2, but then they refound it for the rest of the series. They also picked up defensively, which we all know is an Eric Spoelstra special. The Heat did everything the Bucks were supposed to do. Hit open threes, hit contested threes, play defense, snatch the heart out of your opponent. I mean, Giannis nearly pulled a 40-20 game in an elimination game, and they still lost, and it's still considered a bad game by him. You have one of the all-time greats, quite possibly the best player in the world, on your roster. But yet you did not show up. And that's just not the players. That's the coaches. And ultimately, it cost Mike Budenholzer his job. Mike Budenholzer was fired. And anyone who's in the know heard these whispers. that there may be a little bit of disconnect between the front office and ownership and Mike Budenholzer. His unwillingness to adjust. Because people tend to forget he was stubborn as all get out. After the Bucks got waxed by 40 by the Nets in the second round during their championship run, then and only then did Mike Budenholzer start to make slight adjustments. And those slight adjustments continued to happen throughout the rest of the playoffs and right through the finals, and they ended up winning the championship. But I guess that was a special occasion. That was a special time. That was a special era in Bucks basketball where Mike Budenholzer was actually willing and able to make adjustments. And when we all saw that, we're like, wow. If Mike Budenholzer is making adjustments now, I mean, this has dynasty potential. But then you follow that next year up, and he stops making adjustments. Chris Middleton goes down in the first round. You get beat in 7 games by the Celtics, who went on to the NBA Finals. They lost to the Warriors. He was back to his old ways, and those whispers began to start swirling again. Many people feel, and this includes people I've spoken with that are inside those NBA circles, many people feel that championship saved Mike Budenholzer's job. And I tend to agree. Despite securing the best record multiple times, despite the way the Bucks were playing, it just was him being hard-headed and not willing to make the adjustments to take the Bucks higher. Yeah, you could not make those adjustments in the regular season when you're beating up on bottom-feeding teams like Detroit, who won 17 ball games. Fine and dandy. That's going to work. Regular season. Sometimes you could just, and I don't want to say this, but I'm just going to say it appears that sometimes you could just roll out of bed and get a win against some of these teams because that's how awful they are. But you still got to go out there and play the games and realize that those are also professionals on the other side. But let's be real. Sometimes the coaching talent on the other side, sometimes the player talent on the other side is just no match for what you have. I'll leave it at that. But that sort of non-adjustment, not going to put forward the best every single time works in a regular season when you have bottom feeders on your schedule. An 82-game schedule, you have some leeway within that. You don't have that leeway in the playoffs. You're not playing against slouches. Yeah, you guys saw the 8 next to Miami's name, and they may have been an 8 seed, but they damn sure ain't playing like an 8 seed. And if you were really paying attention, you would know after the All-Star break, they started to put things together. And now they're in the NBA Finals. Congratulations to them. Tied up with Denver. Again, congratulations to the Nuggets making the NBA Finals. They're both locked up at 1-1. Miami doing what Miami does. Snatching your heart out in the fourth quarter when it matters most. But Mike Budenholzer's unwillingness to make proper adjustments, just being hard-headed and saying my way is the way and we're not changing, ultimately cost him his job. There were adjustments to be made in this Miami series. Even Giannis said it. They asked him, did you feel that you needed to guard Jimmy Butler? Did you feel there needed to be adjustments made? And I'm paraphrasing, but Giannis basically said, hey, that's up to the coach. And I get it. Giannis is a very respectful guy. He's going to do whatever the coach asks him. But if you're borderline the best player in the world, 2 MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, multi-time All-Star, All-Star Game MVP, Finals MVP, you're assured of a Hall of Fame spot when your career is done. You're assured of getting your number retired when the game is done. And you're not even 30 yet. So if that is you, I believe you've got the clout to go over and say, I'm taking this guy. Let's adjust. If there's one fault I see with Giannis, it is that if he sees something, and he's smart enough to know, he's won a Defensive Player of the Year award before. I believe he has a very high basketball IQ, especially defensively. Being the superstar, the megastar that you are, sometimes you got to go to the coach and say, look, this ain't working. We got to do something else. That would be my one fault with Giannis. I wish he would have went over and said, look, we got to do something different. Now I get it. He had that back injury. He probably wasn't going to keep up with Jimmy Butler as he normally would had he been fully healthy. But at times, you just got to take the reins and say, look, coach, we got to do something different. We have to do this. We have to do this. This is going to help us win. We've got to do it. Give me that assignment. Kobe's done it. Michael's done it. That's the type of company you're with. But I digress. Nothing but love for Coach Bud. Nothing but love for him. He will probably never have to buy another drink or another dinner in the state of Wisconsin ever. A great 5-season run, culminating in the championship. But a tumultuous end. I can't even speak. A rough end to the tenure. I said it before and I say it again. It was a shock because it happened, but it wasn't a shock because we expected it to happen a little bit sooner. We all heard the whispers. So you decided that Mike Budenholzer is the answer. You went on an extensive search. Guys like Nick Nurse were interviewing, and many others, Mark Jackson, Kenny Atkinson, Adrian Griffin, who ultimately got the job. Now, I said many times, speaking with people, being on Evan Wittalison's podcast, Talking Sports with Evan, that it depends on what direction the Bucks want to go. If they want to go with experienced, they've been to the mountaintop before, Nick Nurse is your guy. I think that defensive system would work very, very well. He would have to hire extremely well to kind of fill out his offensive staff. Get an offensive system here that works with the talent that the Bucks have, because let's be clear, they ain't a whole lot they can do. They are cash strapped. The cap is not their friend currently. And they ain't got a whole lot of draft capital. So they're going to be working with a lot of the players that they currently have on the roster this upcoming season. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of changes with that roster because there's just not a lot of wiggle room. But I said it depends on if they want to go with experience, who've been through those battles, possibly won a championship like Nick Nurse, that would work. But if they want to inject some new blood into the head coaching ranks, if they want a guy who is going to grow with this team, develop players, which is another thing that Mike Budenholzer would not do. He would not play his young guys. I need guys like Marjon Beauchamp to get more minutes than what he did. I need him to be able to play more than he was. Sporadic minutes here and there, sporadic starts here and there is not good enough. This kid has a lot of talent. You have to develop him. You have to develop him not just for the betterment of him, but the betterment for the team and the team's future, because these guys are getting older. Giannis ain't getting any younger. Chris Middleton's not getting any younger. Drew Holiday's not getting any younger. Brook Lopez is not getting any younger. Look at the Golden State Warriors. They had their nucleus, but they had to develop other guys because they knew that we're not going to be with these superpowers for very, very long. At some point, there's going to be a little bit of slippage, a little bit of decline. Whether it be age or injury, whatever the case may be, it's just not going to always be this way. We have to have young guys in here who can keep us up at that level. The Bucks have to do the same. It's not always going to be at the best record in the NBA level unless you develop those young guys. And Mike Budenholzer just refused to do so. So maybe inject some new blood to the head coaching ranks, a guy who's going to grow with the team. They're going to learn him. He's going to learn them. They're going to grow together. And who knows, maybe you get something dynastic. And I think that's a big reason why they interview Adrian Griffin. I believe this is a guy who has paid his dues. Not his first time in Milwaukee. He was here as a player. He was here as an assistant under Scott Skiles. The man has paid his dues, and along a lot of circles of people that I've spoken with, they said, hey, this guy he's been a head coach. We always believed he's been a head coach. He just hasn't gotten the opportunity yet. He's gotten that opportunity now. Officially announced as Milwaukee Bucks head coach today as we record this program on a Tuesday. Finally had his introductory press conference and media scrum and all that. Took pictures with some of the players. Marjon Beauchamp was there. Javon Carter there. Talk about his strategy, what he brings to the table. All of it sounds good. I think a lot of people are really excited because he mentioned adjustments. He's already hired Terry Stotts, former Bucks coach, former Portland Trail Blazers head coach. A lot of success out there in Portland. It's going to bring a really good offensive system that I feel is going to work with the talent that they currently have. And this is the thing that I said that Adrian Griffin was going to have to do. Griffin is a defensive-minded head coach. I think he's going to bring a very good system that's going to continue to keep the Bucks top 5 defensively. Where the Bucks struggled this season was offense. We're accustomed to seeing the Bucks be top 5 offense, defense. They were outside of the top 10 in offense this season. Just wasn't the same. So he was going to have to hire someone that's going to implement an adjustable offensive game plan that works well with the players. It can be adjusted for tighter situations, mainly playoffs, namely injury. And Terry Stotts is that guy. Brilliant offensive mind. So he's already hiring a very good staff. You got a former head coach, another guy who has familiarity with Milwaukee, the fabric of it. But the thing that I will caution both of them about, both Adrian Griffin, head coach, Terry Stotts, probably going to be the lead assistant, is that the standard is much, much higher than when Griffin was here as a player and as a head coach assistant coach under Scott Skiles than when Terry Stotts was here as a head coach. It's not Chase the Eight anymore. If you think Bucks fans all over the place, especially in Milwaukee, especially in Wisconsin, are going to be happy with getting to the pit, that's playing tournament, in case any of y'all want to know, you're sadly mistaken. The standard is championship. That's where it's been risen to. You have a generational talent in number 34. Championship window is still open. Did it close a little bit? Sure. Just a little bit. But it's still open. So don't come in with that, oh, well, you know what, if we play mediocre basketball and if we're in the middle of the pack and we just get to the playoffs and then we go on a run, then we get no. Now, look, do I care about the number one seed? Not entirely. I would much rather prefer having home court for situations in case you get to a game 7 and you have that home court that should give you an extra boost. But after this playoff run, home court didn't matter. You let Miami just rip your heart out, but they've been ripping everybody's hearts out, so I don't feel so bad. But if you think getting to the pit is going to satiate everyone's hunger for Bucks basketball, you're sadly mistaken. So get that mediocrity out of your mind. It's not chase the 8 anymore. It's not chase the pit. Not getting to the pit. It's championship level basketball. World championship level basketball standard in Milwaukee now. How will the team look? Like I said, they're cash strapped, hard capped. It's going to be very difficult for the Bucks to do much of anything unless they make a significant move. Do you trade Chris? Do you trade Drew? That is the only way a big move can come through. Does Chris opt out of that player contract? Does he opt in? I would opt in to $40 million. I wouldn't be a fool. Or if I understand where the team is and the moves they would like to make, and I can quite possibly help them make that happen by declining the option and taking a more team-friendly deal, I may consider that. If it's going to give us championship opportunities, I would consider it. I made a lot of money. I could continue to make a lot of money. Maybe not $40 million a year, but I may consider it. Do you re-sign Brook? You better. He's been the anchor of that defense. One of the best seasons of his career. And I know he used to be a 20-point per game scorer in the post. Yeah, I get that. But offensively, what the Bucks needed from him, he delivered. Defensively, what the Bucks needed from him, he delivered. And he stayed healthy. Availability. But this team can't look too much different unless there's some moves made, whether it be contractual, whether it be player movement. And people, stop with this Dame Lillard to Milwaukee talk. Just because Terry Stotts is here as an assistant, it does not mean that he's bringing Dame Lillard with him. So can we please stop that? Can we stop the photoshops of Dame Lillard in Bucks uniforms? Can we just stop that talk? You could dream all you want to, but it's not happening. So let's just get that out there. Even though Miami absolutely steamrolled the hopes and dreams of the Milwaukee Bucks, and they have everyone. They did it to the Celtics. You know, they've done it to everyone. I still feel Milwaukee is a championship caliber team. It makes me nervous that you have a guy who has never been a head coach, now being given the keys to a perennial playoff power, a championship caliber power team. Does it make you nervous? Because he's an unknown as far as head coach goes, but he's been very good at developing. He was definitely a big part of the Raptors' run to a championship, helping Nick Nurse with his defensive system. I have all the faith in the world that he is ready to be a head coach. But being ready to be a head coach and getting results as a head coach, two very different things. But this is the guy that Giannis wanted. And it's wild. Like, how do you know about Adrian Griffin? Right? Like, you didn't play with him. You've never been coached by him. How do you know about him? How did you get a relationship with him? How did you know that he was a guy for this job? It's really wild how basketball circles are very more tight-knit than you think. More people know more people than you believe. But if Giannis is vouching for him, and Chris and Giannis were able to meet with him and have dinner with him, much the same way they did with Mike Budenholzer, or at least they were invited. I heard they had dinner with him, or at least spoke to him. If he's vouching for him, if he feels comfortable with what he's going to bring to the table, what he's going to be able to unlock for not just himself, but the entire team, if he feels that this is the guy that can keep this team at championship level and make it back and win another championship, who am I inclined to say no? Who am I to say no? That can't happen. At this point, you just got to have faith. You just have to believe. And I'm not saying he's going to come out the gate and win the championship in his first year, a la Nick Nurse. I'm not saying that. But he's getting the keys to a championship caliber team. He has a generational talent and a pretty damn good squad around him if they would perform when it matters most. And maybe all that's missing is coaching, putting guys in the right spots in order to succeed, which is what Coach Griffin said he wanted to do. Adjustments. And I guess that's why I had to come on and do this podcast. I had to make an adjustment in my attitude. I didn't want anything to do with sports after getting my heart yanked out by watching that embarrassing series. But with a new coach in tow, a new season on the horizon, I know this one isn't over yet, 1-1 NBA Finals. But with Coach Griffin being introduced, it's time for all of us to adjust our mindset. Mike Budenholzer is gone. Maybe having the best record in the league is gone. But what isn't gone is hope. And now what is no longer gone are adjustments. Yeah, this was a tough watch this postseason for the Bucks. And yeah, I know it happened a couple of months ago. But I had to do this podcast for me because it's therapy. I have to talk it out. And maybe somewhere in the world, Bucks fans, whoever's listening, I just hope that with today's press conference, the official introduction of Coach Griffin as head coach, and the very fact that he was talking about adjustments gives you a little bit of excitement, but a lot more hope. Bucks will be back, and they'll be better.